Hi everyone, my name's Michael and welcome back to Amarok Weekenderlander. On this episode we're going to talk about what sort of improvements I would like to see if iKamper ever came out with a 4.0 version of their SkyCamp Mini and SkyCamp tents. Before we get started, it is probably worth pointing out that I don't work for iKamper, so none of this is insider information, nor do I have any intel about what's happening. These are just my sort of suggestions for improvements and little lifestyle tweaks that would make a difference moving from a SkyCamp 3.0 to a hopeful future SkyCamp 4. I have no knowledge as to whether that's going to happen or not, but I doubt a company that has innovated as much as iKamper has in the past is sat on their fingers just going, yeah, we've nailed it, without listening to a little bit of customer feedback and always looking to make the product as good as it can be for the next version. None of these are essential, and if they were never implemented, the 3.0 would still be an excellent tent. I just think these are a few little sort of improvements and upgrades that would make just that little bit of difference to make the iKamper even better than it already is. So without further ado, let's get into it about the things that I would love to see in the iKamper 4.0 model. So this is something that iKamper actually already does, but it's just something I'd like to see more of. You may not have seen it because it is quite a limited thing to America, but they have released something called the Pacific Northwest Edition, and that is a stunning tent. It's got a special edition fly sheet and cover, and also, but most importantly, a black ladder. I would love a black ladder for this. I think the black would fit this design so much better. It would fit my colour scheme of the tent and the truck a lot better. So improvement number one for an iKamper 4.0 would be the option of a black ladder. Please, I think it would just look so much better, particularly with this colour scheme. I know you already make one. Making it available would be probably something I would consider purchasing, and I have no doubt probably quite a lot of other people would. So a black ladder as a purchasable option, please, iKamper, would be excellent for improvement number one for the iKamper 4.0. And talking about the Pacific Northwest Edition, another thing that I would love to see in the iKamper 4.0 is customisable fly sheets of some description. These would allow you to just completely personalise your tent. Even if there was only 2 or 3 different versions that you could sort of configure as a tent builder when you purchase your tent new, would completely change this. It would allow people to have their own personal style on their iKamper. I realise there's cost and sort of manufacturing issues and logistics associated with that. Stock control would be a nightmare, but selfishly, in terms of being able to change the colour of your tent, would be so much better, because this black would work great in winter, but then I would maybe have something lighter in the summer as an example, particularly in sort of those early mornings when the light comes through. But in the winter you maybe don't need it quite as dark, so a customisable fly sheet would be great, because I know they already do it, so as an upgrade kit from an iKamper 2 to an iKamper 3. So these are built to be modular, so it's something that could be done. Basically, iKamper, it's your own fault, because the PNW edition tent is beautiful and I want one, but I don't live in America, so I will never ever be able to get one. So if you could sell customisable fly sheets for me to buy, that would be excellent, please. Thanks. The next suggestion of an improvement is kind of moving inside the tent now, but it's particularly in this area up here. The only real place that we would say we struggle with condensation is inside the fly sheet, sort of above the living area, and it's, I think, mainly because of this part here where there's a complete lack of ventilation and airflow this way. I don't really know how you solve that. I'm the ideas guy, not the solutions guy. What we've done in the past is we have used like pipe lagging and insulation just to lift a little bit of a gap in here, so that the airflow can then get through and dry the underside of that plastic, so that when you've got that vent open, there's no water sort of condensating on the inside of there. I don't really know, like I say, how you fix that or what the idea is, but some kind of gap up and around there, probably in the corners, to allow some airflow in would be a really big help, I think. Very sort of minor condensation issue, but that's the only place that we've had condensation issues in our tent, so that would be one of the improvements I would like to see on. Right, so the next few improvements that I would like to see are inside the tent itself, so that's why I'm now inside the tent. The first one being vents. I think this needs more vents. There's a lot of canvas space that could be used to make a vent. So let me show you what I mean. Because at the minute, the vents you've got are the choice of the side windows and the front door, which is great. But in the morning, if you've got these open a little bit to allow some cross ventilation for condensation avoidance, you'll get woken up because it's bright when the rest of the tent is very dark. So what I think they could do is something a bit different and have a dedicated sort of anti-condensation vent. And I'll show you where I would like that to be. And my idea for that vent would be here. there is quite a lot of canvas space here. It's on a little bit of a curve, so I don't know how much that would work. But just a small vent up here, which would then on the outside have a triangle that comes out this way. And like one of those little sort of flaps that opens up just to prop it open. You could have one vent there and then one vent on that side as well. And that's where your cross ventilation would come in. I think that would make a huge difference. And then you don't have to have these windows open. Because like I say, I normally crack sort of the corner open over here. And that just shines directly on my face when I'm lying in bed. Whereas a kind of dedicated anti-condensation vent up here would make a big difference. So that would be one of my other sort of improvement suggestions. An extra small vent up here, I'd say probably only about so big. But one of the ones where it's got that little flap and then you chock it open to sort of bridge it open, I think would be a really big difference in terms of ventilation, because it's higher and that's obviously where it goes, the hot air rises. But then could be another place I think you could have a vent would be back here, right next to your head. Similar sort of design, again, having that little bit of a thing that you can turn up to sort of open it and close it as you want. But I imagine that's probably where a lot of your condensation comes from, is like your face. Could there be a small vent maybe in that side patch, in that area behind the gas piston and then the clamshell? It could maybe be open and closed. Might not be great in terms of livability for your head, but as a potential suggestion of where to put an extra vent, that could be a potential place as well. Another thing I think I'd really like to see is a dedicated diesel heater vent, so that you've got somewhere to put that big inlet pipe into this camper. The iKamper is used by people who like to buy equipment, let's be honest. So myself included, I do want a diesel heater eventually. Need a dual battery first, so I've got some way to power it. I am sort of considering how am I going to get that vent into the tent. I'm going to have to either use one of the windows or the main door, whereas there is an area I think that there could be a vent perfectly. And that area is in this section of the tent, maybe even if it's just down in that corner here somewhere, right next to the door. Have one small vent on either side, just have a little sort of zip that opens up. And I know this adds all extra manufacturing cost and all stuff like that. Having that dedicated diesel heater vent there and the same on sort of this side here, so that you can choose which side you want to have it, I think would make a big difference, so that you could just have it straight in and then it would vent into the tent and you could move it around from there. So again, just little usability improvements. No, not sort of game changers or anything like that, but just the next evolution of the tent. So I said it in the 12-month review video, one of the biggest, I think, underutilized spaces in an iKamper is this area here, the back clamshell. It's crying out for pockets. Alucab do it, and I wonder if that's maybe the reason why, if there's like a copyright or a patent or something stopping that from happening. But having pockets, maybe 6 of them, sort of 3 smaller ones, they're not about weight bearing. It's so you can put things like your phone in, a charger, your socks, some gloves, a hat, small items up on this space here. So like say a grid of 6 small boxes across here. I don't really like these small pockets on the side, particularly when you use the inflatable mattress. They feel essentially inaccessible. And I do think that's something that iKamper really, really could and should improve upon. This is my only real gripe with the iKamper, I would say, is this space needs to be used more. Can we do something about this? You can still keep this design. In fact, please keep this design. I really like it. And it's one of the things that gets the most comments about the iKamper is this lovely design of this. You can still have this, but just have it printed on top of some pockets that we can put stuff in, please. And that would make a huge difference to the usability of the tent from the inside. And I think one of the other sort of huge improvements that needs to happen is in relation to the mattress. I know you can't see it because all my bedding's in here. We pay a lot of money for these tents, and I think we need a better mattress as standard. The Skycamp 3 mattress is an improvement, I'm led to believe, but I still don't think it's good enough. People who are like me, who are side and front sleepers, I just found it essentially fine as a sleep. But since going to this inflatable mattress, I sleep better in here than I do in my bed at home. But when we've spent as much money on the tent as we have, I really don't think that should be something that you should have to upgrade to do. A premium product like this should come with this as standard. And I know there's cost implications to that, and it would probably make the tent more expensive. But I do think the mattress needs addressed quite rapidly in the future versions of an iKamper, just so that it's consistent with the standard. Everything else feels top quality and no costs cut, whereas the mattress kind of feels like that's where they've saved money. So if they could do something about improving that mattress, would be just an absolute game changer. I don't know if any other tent manufacturers ship with self-inflating mattresses as standard, or whether it's always a cost option, but I always think it's worth asking. So the next improvement I would like to see is in relation to these rails here. I think these are too far under the tent. so that when you put something on there, particularly like the shoe hanger, it's too far under, so I don't actually end up using these for both of the shoe hanger. I put one end on here and one end on the ladder so that it's actually accessible. I realise it's probably under here for either weight reasons or so that it's covered in event of sort of rain, but I don't think it's accessible, so I'm going to show you what I mean by putting my shoe hanger on. So this is the shoe hanger that I use. It's by a company called iKamper, K-A-M-P-A. I'll put a link in the description for it. It's pretty much identical to the iKamper one, and also Thule, whatever you call it. They do one as well. But just to prove a point, I'm going to move the camera and show you how it is in relation to a ladder. I think this is too far underneath. 2 seconds. So I just don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but I just think this is too far under, particularly if I'm sitting here and want to lean out underneath to put my shoes in. I find this really, really far away. So what I actually end up doing at the minute is I have it here so that it's still undercover, but I can reach it, which is just a huge difference. So I think there either needs to be more of these closer to here, or that one needs to come closer this way. That would be a big sort of usability improvement in an iKamper version 4. So the next improvement I would like to see is in relation to this clamshell. This is a fiberglass clamshell and it is brilliant in terms of wind protection, but again I think it's massively underutilized space. There is one thing that I would love to put on here, and that's a solar panel. Problem is, the only way that you can do that at the minute is with a flexible panel, and they are not great from what I've heard. Research that I've made sort of indicates that they're probably not the best way to go in terms of longevity. A lot of people argue that why would you want to have a solar panel on your tent anyway? That means the tent has to be in the sun. It's more for passive charging when the car's not doing anything. It's wasted space. I do want a roof rack eventually, and I'd rather not have to put a solar panel up there because I want that for storage. So this space here could be perfect. And what my solution would be is strengthen it to the point where you could mount some, even if they're iKamper specific, load bars around the tent. They don't have to, hold a lot of weight, but they could be designed specifically for things like this. You could put solar panels on, you could put traction boards or max tracks type things on there, low weight items that would allow you to use this space. You don't want to be able to weight bear on it because you can see it's not very strong. But if they could reinforce an area maybe around the hinge as an extra mounting point to go up over the top and then allow this whole thing to be covered with a solar panel, imagine the wattage you could have up there. It's a solar panel that iKamper could sell as an example, as a kit, or just a load bar kit. I do think this is underutilised. Appreciate you'd then need stronger gas struts and things like that, but it's something that could be done in the initial design to allow customers to then upgrade to at a further point in the future. So iKamper version 4, some kind of load bearing structure built into the clamshell, not necessarily on the shell itself, but in the facility to allow some bars to be added, please. And another improvement I'd like to see would be this hump, this storage hump that was added for the 3.0, added along the whole size of the tent. I know the trend at the minute is about being smaller, lighter, sleeker, whatever, but I think the storage space that's provided here would be beneficial across the full length of the tent. Not particularly bothered, personally, selfishly, if it went the whole height, because it would still be lower than the height of the cab. And I do think realistically what's going to be the difference in aerodynamics in terms of MPG and fuel mileage, having this be probably about a little bit higher on this end. So would that extra storage pay off? Is this now the sort of the design that people want? I don't know, but I think the option to have a higher storage model would really help, even if it's across the whole height of the tent, because then if this is higher, the flap could come in more, and that means you could maybe lie your sleeping bags out across the whole height of the tent. It's a potential, it's another packing option. It works as it is, but the sleeker sort of squared off size I think would work as an option as well. Even if it was kind of branded as something daft like a mini XL or something like that, there's another variant of the tent with a new clamshell, but everything else is the same. So that might be something worth thinking about. So that's it. The wrap up of the suggestions I would like to see from a future version of an iKamper. None of those are game changers. This would still be a very excellent tent if it never changed further. But I think there's always room for improvement on something. That's a reason why we've got a 3.0 in the first place. Nobody makes the perfect product first time. And when you've got people who can provide more feedback, the more people that use it, the more ideas are generated. So if any of these ideas are used in the future, it would be absolutely amazing to see, but that is very much just my opinion. You know, there are no doubt hundreds of people who are responsible for market and research for companies like iKamper. This might fit into that discussion somewhere, and if anybody from iKamper ends up seeing that, it's been a pleasure to provide a little bit of feedback on one of your products. But please don't take that feedback as any type of sort of bad mouthing or besmirching the reputation of this product. The 3.0 is an excellent tent. I've not used any of the other previous versions. I've not seen any of the other previous versions in as much detail as this one, because this is the one I own. But it doesn't mean that there's not the potential for improvement somewhere along the line. So that could be what's coming next. Hopefully we'll see that soon, within the next year or two. I don't know. I have no insider information whatsoever. That's purely my opinion. So thank you very much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Amarok Weekenderlander. If you think I've earned it, please hit that subscribe button and drop me a like rating. Feel free to comment and share this video around. All of those things are free, but help the channel grow massively in terms of sort of its exposure and feeding into the algorithm a little bit. So if nothing else, just remember, best fun is made outdoors, so let's get out there and have some fun. Cheers. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, my name's Michael and welcome back to Amarok Weekenderlander. that I would like to see that we could make Before we get started, it is 3.0 tent. I just think there's talking about the Pacific Northwest the side, I think they get in the way, particularly when you use the inflatable mattress. Just wait for the wind to pass. I don't really like. I'm struggling.